Okay, hi there. Welcome to, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Horsing Around with Horsepower, which is apparently the name that we're going with for our podcast. Well, my name is Jishnu, and I'm here with my friends Hanno and Max, who I'll be hosting the show alongside. Well, why don't we start by introducing a little bit about ourselves? Hanno, do you want to get the start?
Sure thing, man. As you've already said, my name is Hanno, and I think it's quite an honor and privilege to be here hosting this podcast alongside both Vishnu and Max. It'll only be fitting for myself to introduce how I got into Formula One, since that's what this podcast is based about. I really got into Formula One in 2018, 2019, when Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris joined McLaren, who I have been supporting for some time now, since Lewis Hamilton was in McLaren back in 2008. Because that was the first year when they came to Singapore, and that's when I began watching it out of sheer interest for the noises they created. The engines were pretty, well, they were loud, but they were also very nice to hear for a bit. So that's when I first got into F1, and then I started watching it again in 2018, 2019. I think it's quite apparent that I'm a supporter of McLaren itself, and my favorite driver, I would say, is Lando Norris. Uh, yeah, other than that, excited to see how. I'm pretty happy to see how they're doing this season, and excited to see how things go.
Okay, Max, do you want to tell us about yourself and who you support and how you started watching F1?
Yeah, sure. I actually started watching F1 back when I was just a young boy. I remember the first race that I watched was actually the 2008
Hmm.
Singapore night race. I started watching it because I found out that it was actually the first ever night race out of the
Hmm.
entire F1 calendar. So I found it really, really interesting. At that point of time, I wasn't really a die-hard fan per se. I wasn't really interested in the team strategies and the drivers, all that kind of stuff. It was only in 2016, a few years ago actually, that I started to gain more interest in the sport itself, and that was when I think Max Verstappen did a switch from Toro Rosso to Red Bull Racing. So I guess that's where it really started because there was a driver with the same name as me who was competing in Formula One, and I actually
Yeah,
really love Red Bull since the start. Especially during Sebastian Vettel's prime when he was world champion consecutively and brought Red
For
Bull
Red Bull.
to fame essentially. Another driver that I really admire and I really love is actually an ex-teammate of Verstappen, Daniel Ricardo.
Ah,
There are two reasons why I
Honey
actually love
Badger.
him so much. Firstly, he's such a good driver, a really solid one. He's known as the king of late braking, if you see those clips. Secondly, his personality, both on and off the track, is just amazing. You can always spot a smile on his face, and he's such a fun and loving person. It's impossible for someone to not like him at all.
All right. Well, alongside Max, I also have two of my other good friends joining us today as special guests. They are Abhishek and Ritvik. Abhishek, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, for me, just I would say consider myself a casual viewer of F1, but the reason why I got into this sport or getting into the sport is because of this amazing Netflix documentary that I think a lot of people are getting into now. It's called Drive to Survive. I think when it first came out, it was hugely popular because it introduced the world to this niche sports of Formula One, which people had not really talked about.
Hmm.
And I think the charisma of all the drivers like Lewis Hamilton, Danny Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz really drew everyone in. So personally for myself, I was very intrigued by how the sports works, being such a closed door sport. And as a person myself, I'm really interested in exploring different areas of life, and uh, F1 was one of them because the world of racing is one that's very intense. What we see on the screen is not it's just like, from what I realized after watching the show, it's just like 10% of what goes on, but it's like actually so much more that goes in behind the closed doors, especially with the companies fighting to improve their cars, the drama between the players, the drama between the team managers. I think that's what really got
Uh,
me inside F1. Personally myself, like Max, I'm a supporter of Red Bull because I'm a big fan of
Yeah, that's
Max
right. Keep
Verstappen.
pushing.
And why I like him is because I think the aggression he brings into Formula One is something that I really, really resonate with, because I think the determination and the grit he has really like aspires me to have that same aspiration for my goals. So yeah. That's why I like Red Bull and hence Max Verstappen.
That's
Yeah.
cool. All right, on to you, Ridvik.
Well, so unlike my friends here who have been following Formula One for so many years now, my journey as a F1 fan only started last year when COVID had hit Singapore and it was circuit breaker. So I was binge watching shows on Netflix. So the show that really got me hooked to F1 was Drive to Survive, where I believe what the show did was make F1 so much more accessible and comprehensible. And why I enjoy watching F1 is because it's not only about the Grand Prix that happen out there, but there's so many things behind the scenes as well, such as the conflict between drivers of the same team, maybe different teams, and development of cars. So there are a lot of the things that happen behind the scene which make F1 so attractive and fun to watch. And watching Formula One, McLaren is a team that I've seen which has really improved by leaps and bounds as compared to how they were performing a few years ago. So seeing that climb that ladder is something really magical. And on top of that, my favorite driver, Daniel Ricardo, is also in McLaren. So I really can't wait to see the havoc they really wreck on the track this year, and I'm really hoping uh, to watch and expect some good races from them once Daniel gets used to his new car.
Yep, for sure, for sure. So, well, you've heard about all these four guys now. So we've got like what, two McLaren fans, two Red Bull fans, and well, talking about me personally, I come from from a background of being an automotive enthusiast. So for me, ever since I was a kid, cars has always been like one of the biggest things in my life. And naturally, when Formula One came into Singapore, I became a big fan of the sport. And naturally, Lewis Hamilton and that red and silver McLaren stood in my mind for like a very long time, and I think you can guess that I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan and a McLaren fan, and because now Lewis Hamilton is a Mercedes, I'm also a Mercedes fan. So there's a lot of teams to support and a lot of drivers to support as well. But well, I love the sport, so it's just something that I'm really excited about, and it's actually part of the reason why we started this podcast, and it's really a sort of passion project for us because we are interested in pursuing a sort of career in Formula One in different areas, the technical side, the strategy side, and those kind of stuff. So that is one of the reasons. Hanno, do you want to tell us why else we started this podcast and maybe what the people can expect from this podcast?
I mean, sure, yeah. Another reason why we started the podcast is because I think, as Ritik and Abhishek have very justly mentioned, Drive to Survive has actually made Formula One very accessible to the public itself. However, I think Formula One is still a relatively new sport in Singapore, not as known as or as followed as when compared to sports like football or even NBA basketball. So we started this podcast to hopefully be able to reach out to more fans and to widen the reach of the sport itself, play our part in doing it because it would only be fair and only do the sport itself justice, seeing as to how exciting, how enthralling, and how dramatic at times the sport can really be. And also, just as in a way, I think, as you said, Jishnu, as a way to, not only continually improve our own knowledge to guests like Abhishek and Ritvik, but hopefully, more influential guests hopefully in the future, but also to keep ourselves updated with every race, with every new technology that's being brought into the sport. So yeah.
Yep. So I'll just put in a quick word on what people can expect from this podcast. So you're gonna have the usual spicy stuff, race predictions and race reviews, some
Mm-hmm.
stories on the driver market rumors and the key personnel changes that are going on in the Formula One scene. The stuff that is going to cause major events on track and off track, and those are going to be the big news stories. So we're definitely going to be looking at that in this podcast. But also, we've actually got a mini series coming up soon, and it's aimed at helping new F1 fans get comfortable with the technicalities of the sport. So if you never understood how the qualifying session works, why is it so complicated? Why is everyone making so much noise about the tires, and why is it so hard to understand? Well, I think this mini series is going to be great for you guys to really get a beginner's guide to F1 really. And that's what that mini series is going to be about. So do look out for that. And well, do you guys want to get into the raw F1 content
Let's go,
when
man.
we
Let's
start reviewing the season so
Oh,
far? Should we start
100%.
with the Bahrain Grand Prix? Max, do you want to start talking about the Bahrain Grand Prix?
Yes, I do want to talk about it because of the incident on Verstappen exceeding the track limits, and he had to give the place back to Hamilton.
Uh,
So when I first heard of that, I was extremely frustrated. I honestly thought that the racing stewards were being biased against him. Hamilton exceeded the track limits several times, and he didn't get penalized. But not just on that occasion, but also in qualifying as well. And many people, not just myself, we were wondering why would Verstappen have to give the place back to him.
Yeah.
But it didn't sound fair at all, But however, after reading all the articles and official statements, the reason why Verstappen would give it back because he gained an unfair advantage when overtaking Hamilton, and he exceeded the track limits. So that's why he was ordered to give the place back to him. And if I remember correctly, there was actually another driver who also exceeded the track limits during overtake but wasn't required to give the place back, primarily because he didn't gain an unfair advantage and he completed the overtake maneuver after the turn. I can't remember exactly who was it,
I think it might have been Lando
but yeah,
Norris
right off the
on
bat,
Charles
Red
Leclerc.
Bull had a
Ooh. Yeah, I
fantastic
think so
first
too.
race of the
Yeah.
season. They had really fast times and topped the qualifying time and the actual race times. And it's really exciting to see that Red Bull is such a huge competition for Mercedes this year. And I'm sure it's something that we can all look forward to.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I mean, although track limits kind of ruined the party for most of us, I think it was so great to see such a close battle between the two of them. Uh, and just down to the last lap, and it was just 0.7 seconds at the line.
Yeah.
I think that's something we all
really, really
enjoyed,
Yeah.
close.
right?
Yeah, and I think I think Mercedes did surprise quite a few of us, especially after preseason testing, where, believe it or not, I think they were sandbagging quite a bit. And they had quite a few of our hopes high, even though we knew that they might have been sandbagging. They had a pretty good, I guess, comeback of sorts. If they weren't sandbagging, and if they were, then they did pretty well to hide the developments during preseason testing.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was while for most of us it was an unwelcome surprise. I think it made for a very good race and a very fun one as well.
Right, and talking about comebacks, actually, Max Verstappen made a pretty good comeback, straight away in the next race, the Imola Grand Prix, which was, I would say, is the most exciting race that we've had so far. What do you guys think?
I mean, for sure. I mean, I was okay. I'm not gonna lie. When Lando Norris's lap times were deleted, it was deleted during
Ooh.
qualifying. I was fuming. Yeah, because I thought that he deserved that, but I think on further review, it was as hard as it is for me to say, it was fair enough that it was that time was deleted. But then again, his race pace was so good, and it was such good strategy employed by McLaren, especially after the red flag, to straight away go onto the soft tires, so that on the restart, he would be able to get the jump on Leclerc. And the way he did it, and the way he then was able to defend his position only against Hamilton, but also Leclerc was beautiful. And as a young and upcoming driver, I think it really showed that what class and talent that he does possess, and it shows that McLaren not only is a good team, but they also have a really good driver in their hands, a future world champion, I think. So yeah, pretty excited, and seeing him on the podium, I was kind of sad that he didn't do his iconic celebration instead of jumping and
Popping the
smashing the
bottle.
champagne bottle. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
He was kind of sad that I didn't get to see it, but I think it was still worth it.
Definitely. I mean, that Q3 lap when I was seeing him in the first two sectors go purple and purple, and it wasn't even just in Q1 or Q3. It was in Q3. When everyone is pushing to the limit, and he was on purple on
Exactly.
both sectors.
Yeah.
Oof, that was a moment to remember, man.
hmm
And
I'm pretty sure Ritik also must have been so gassed by it.
I think one major thing we should talk about the elephant in the room for that race was the crash between George Russell and Valtteri Bottas. Oof, how dramatic that was,
Yes, who can
guys.
forget?
Oh,
When I
that
first
was
saw that
so
happen,
good.
I
That
was like,
was
oh my
so
god, wait,
good.
who crashed into who? Like, was it Russell that crashed into Bottas or Bottas crashed into Russell? Then my
Yeah.
man, Russell just comes out of the car, sitting in the car and flips Bottas off. Was it Bottas who flipped him off?
I think they both flipped each other
No,
off.
one of them flipped him off.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
clearly they were pissed at each
Russell went
other.
and slapped Bottas in the
Clearly they were
head.
pissed
I
at
mean,
each
that
other.
was, yeah,
But
that was not fun to watch. I thought Russell was going there to check on Bottas, and I was like, wow,
Ex-
what a sportsman.
exactly.
They went there and slapped him on the head, and I was like, not a sportsman.
I think after that, then with the limited budget they have, Mercedes took a huge hit with the two cars crashing.
Yeah,
It must be tough on them, man.
yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
For real.
I remember Toto Wolff's in a interview after the race, he was saying Russell was just a bit too excited to get into the Mercedes, which I thought was a bit funny. And well, Max, you remember this? I mean, we were watching the race together. When the crash happened, at first we thought maybe it was Bottas' fault because, like Hanno said, we're looking at Russell just walking over angrily
Yeah.
to Bottas, and then you look at the onboards and well, when you walk through us, what happened?
So yeah, what happened essentially was that Russell went for an overtake on Bottas down the straight. He moved to the right of him, and essentially what happened was that the right side of his car just barely touched the grass patch on the side. It kissed it, and this caused him to lose all his grip essentially. Because remember during the race, it was raining and the ground and the track were drenched. So this caused Russell to crash into Bottas, and after that, the rest was history. We all knew what happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was scary to be honest. The crash,
Mm-hmm.
and
I mean, okay, to be honest, right? I think the crash. I still have a conspiracy theory to this day, right? That the crash was purely to benefit
Oh
Hamilton,
yeah,
because after
I
he
think we were
went into the
discussing
wall,
it when we were watching.
Yes,
yeah,
I would
I
like to think
definitely
so also.
thought that, just to get Hamilton that fighting chance again. I mean, of course, I don't think that Mercedes would be so down as to sacrifice two cars, for that and everyone else's health. But I think it's a fun conspiracy theory to go along. But I mean, okay, to be fair, right, Hamilton did make a very good comeback after, almost crashing into the wall. I think, number one, he was very, very smart in reversing out of the gravel trap instead of going forward, because then he would have definitely been stuck in the gravel trap itself. So that was some experience for like showing himself there. And the way, he then fought back to get, I'll say, kind of close to Verstappen, was insane. Honestly, to come from P8 all the way to P2, pretty good.
I mean, Hamilton did technically crash, just that he just touched the wall ever so slightly, but he still managed to get out of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I actually think that once Hamilton crashed, the team at the Mercedes garage were like, push the strategy button. Valtteri, it's James. Russell, it's James. You guys know what to do. If you want to see that Mercedes, you gotta fight for it.
I,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it happened so immediately too. I think that's how people are starting to have all these conspiracy theories. But yeah, I mean,
had the crash not happened, the gap between Verstappen and Hamilton would have stayed on for quite a couple of more laps. And once that safety car came out,
Yeah.
it obliterated the gap. It had undone all the efforts by Verstappen and the Red Bull team. And when I saw that, I was absolutely devastated.
Mm-hmm.
As a Red Bull fan, it was definitely hard to watch the race.
Seems like both races so far have been pretty sad and devastating for people. I mean, for people who are Red Bull supporters, I
For
guess.
sure, man. Just want my man
Yeah,
Max Verstappen to win the race.
whereas I think me and Ritik were thoroughly enjoying ourselves as McLaren supporters. Oh, it was so good.
but then after that very exciting Imola Grand Prix, we go on to this Portimao Grand Prix, which well, it was very interesting last year, but this year a little less so, I think. I mean, Sainz, we still saw his talent in the low grip conditions.
Mm-hmm.
He was still right on pace with like even some of the Red Bulls and the Mercedes at the start of the Grand Prix, like last year very much.
Yeah.
But then after that, I think it was a bit of a dull race, I would say.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I was expecting a lot more, especially after last year. But yeah, it was kind of dull. Lewis did overtake pretty well though, so yeah.
Oh yeah, the two overtakes from Lewis on Max Verstappen and on Bottas
Mm-hmm.
around the outside on turn one. That was that was lovely. But to be honest, I think that's pretty much all we have to talk about, for the Portimao Grand Prix. So
Yeah.
yeah, but then
Yeah, it was a pretty meh kind of
Pretty
race.
standard race.
yeah, but then we had the Spanish Grand Prix about last week, and that was interesting. I think.
Not really fun for Red Bull fans again. Not really fun for Red Bull fans again. Once again. Ouch.
not fun at all
I
for
think
us.
if you talk about the race, you have to talk about Mercedes' threat to have the double pit in the middle.
Mhm.
Definitely,
Yeah.
giving them the countdown. As a Red Bull fan, watching that happen and not being able to bring in a new set of tires for Max Verstappen, and slowly just seeing him edging out in the race by Hamilton's new set of tires was like, oh man, it's like a slow pain watching. You know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the usual here
Honestly,
again.
I'm not gonna lie. I was expecting Red Bull to react soon enough. I didn't. I thought it would be down for them to react straight away after Hamilton pitted.
Hmm.
But I thought that maybe by the second or third lap they might have, because there was a good enough gap for Verstappen to go into the pits, come out, and still be able to fight for the lead, or if not be in the lead by a few seconds.
Yeah,
So
but
I thought that Red Bull should have definitely pitted for a fresher set of tires for Verstappen.
Yeah, well, I believe one of the reasons why they wouldn't uh, have wanted to pit was because they had a very well established lead. Uh, Verstappen was like what 20 seconds ahead of Hamilton at the time. So they call him into pit and potentially losing that lead. It's quite a tough decision to make. So I think it's quite understandable why they wouldn't have wanted him to pit, even though Lewis had come in for a second pit stop.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that point, Ridvik. The basis of Red Bull's decision was actually very sound. Hamilton had already overtook Verstappen on a new set of tyres, and so this left Red Bull with two decisions. First one, they could leave Verstappen out on the old set of tyres and let him have a confirmed second place, or they could pit him in on a new set of
But yeah,
tyres, but that would mean he would drop to third and he would actually have to fight for it, fight for the second place. So they were left with two decisions essentially. One, either give him a confirmed second place, or two, try to have him fight his way back up to the second place. And it's understandable why Red Bull chose the former one instead.
I mean, I do see the point, but I mean, as fans, I think it would have been more fun to watch the race go on with, you know, Verstappen and Hamilton fighting for the first place than watching Verstappen just lose everything slowly.
And one thing that I think really needs to be mentioned here is Daniel's performance as well. It was the first time, in this season that he has outperformed Lando Norris. So I think that's a very encouraging sign for Daniel, and um, I think it shows that how he's getting used to the car. So that was a great performance to see from his side as well during the Spanish Grand Prix.
But you know what was biggest surprise for me was I actually read this on F1.com after the race. You know, they did an article as to why Red Bull
oh yeah,
didn't why
yeah,
Red
yeah,
Bull
I
just
read
couldn't
that
win the
article
Spanish
as
Grand
well.
Prix despite any strategy call that they made. And it's because they didn't have a set of medium tires like Lewis did, you know, to make that second pit stop.
Yeah,
They were only left with a set of soft tires, which to be honest, that surprised me a lot because this exact scenario happened before in like Hungary 2019, and to see that they had not um, accounted for this mistake that they made in the past, that was a bit surprising for me because Red Bull is this huge team and they're up against Mercedes this year to really fight for the constructors and the drivers championship. So I don't know. I feel like they may have dropped the ball on this one, but is it too early to say that, or what do you guys think?
I mean, for sure they did drop the ball on the race itself, and I think to a certain extent they have dropped the ball from the beginning of the season. I feel that they were a bit complacent, especially after preseason testing. Again, I bring that up because Red Bull were clearly the faster car, the more dominant car, and Mercedes were lagging behind a bit, or what it seemed like they were lagging behind. And I feel like Red Bull might have gotten a bit complacent, thinking that we had the faster car, will be good for the season. And then they got a rude awakening at, I would say, probably Portimao,
Mm-hmm.
because the first two races were still pretty close, and having Max win in the second Grand Prix still kind of backed their belief that they had the faster car. And yeah, I think the complacency might have gotten the best of them here.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's all very close between them still anyway. So we still got 19 more races to go, and well, the first four races, it's been, I would say, three out of four races have been won by Lewis, which it doesn't really bode well for the next few ones. But think about this, next race we have is the Monaco Grand Prix, and now this is one of Red Bull's. You could call it Red Bull's home ground essentially, because their car is just it's historically
it
designed
is.
around this track, and it just it bodes well for them that next race is Monaco, and I think it's very important for them to have this next win. Uh, what do you guys think? What do you think is gonna happen in the race itself? Who do you guys think is gonna finish on the podium?
I
Any
think
surprises maybe?
I think for the coming races, I feel Daniel Ricciardo's and both Carlos Sainz are really adjusting to the new cars. And as well, I think we might be seeing better performances from them. And I think giving like uh drivers like Sergio Perez or even Charles Leclerc a chance like a run for the money in these coming races. So I think that's one we can see with the new drivers getting adjusted to the cars.
For me, I expect Ricardo on the podium. Well, it's nice to see him back there. However, but he just joined McLaren this year, so I would say he actually need time to get used to his current setup. I don't expect him to actually to do very well, but historically we know that Ricardo has done really well in Monaco, and he's actually on point there. It's sort of his like home ground. He won in 2016 and 2018, and also yeah, Red Bull should do well, should do really well. You know, the design of the car is such that it produces much more downforce compared to the Mercedes car. Mercedes car is only really good for straight line speeds, whereas Red Bull is good for tight, slow corners, and it will allow them to go faster around these corners. With Monaco being one of the slower circuits, Red Bull should really benefit from this.
Yeah, for sure.
But I have to correct you on one thing. Daniel didn't win in 2016. He lost because of a fatal pit stop error, and
Oh yes, I remember it was
No,
only
Yeah.
he
I
only
think
won in
in Max's
2018. Yes,
yeah,
no
in
no
Max's
no
mind, I
no.
think it's more like the Avatar movie. It doesn't exist. There is no movie in Ba Sing Se. There is no 2016 loss for Ricardo in
yeah,
Ba
yeah,
Sing
yeah.
Se.
Yeah. There is no 2016 for Ricardo. Yeah.
Well,
Okay, yeah, but
was the last job for
essentially,
him maybe for in Red Bull.
yeah. Essentially,
I would say I would expect to see Verstappen at the top, followed by Hamilton, and as for the third place, I want it to be a surprise. It could be Leclerc, could be Ricardo, could be even Norris. So yeah.
Well, for the Monaco Grand Prix, I believe that, as Jishnu and Max have mentioned, that, Red Bull cars seem to have a clear advantage in this kind of circuit as compared to Mercedes cars. So definitely, I think Verstappen can come out on top of this one, and he can finally he might win this one, and maybe Hamilton will come a close second because his experience would really help him, and so I believe Verstappen would come first, Hamilton would be second, and as for third place, I think it would either be Charles Leclerc or it could be Checo Perez as well. Because for Checo Perez, well, he'll be in a Red Bull car as well, so that would really help him in this kind of circuit. So I think he really has the potential to come third over here. And though I think it has been mentioned that Daniel might come third, I'm optimistically hoping, but at the same time, I'm quite skeptical as well because Daniel is still in a new car, and he's I think even though he performed quite well in the Spanish Grand Prix, Monaco is also quite a hard circuit. So this it might be a tough one for him to get third, but if he does, that would be great. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree with Max for number one and number two. I think Verstappen is the most likely contender to win Monaco. I feel like Lewis might come second simply because of his raw talent. Mercedes' car might be not as well suited for Monaco, but I think Hamilton is talented enough. And I think third might be Daniel Ricciardo, contrary to what Max believes, because I think we saw him getting a little more adjusted to the car, especially in the previous race in Spain, where low grip conditions, Daniel Ricciardo did pretty well. Uh, to be able to not only just out qualify Lando, but to come P5 and overtake Perez and Sainz in the beginning. I think it shows that he has slightly adjusted better to the car, and I think as Max also briefly mentioned, Monaco is Ricardo's home ground. So I would say home ground, but it's where he's very very comfortable, and I think that he will be able to surprise most of us. And I think Ricardo being in this special golf livery. Oh, that livery is so good. I stayed up. So for some context, today is the 17th of May. So I think the video came out last night, and I stayed up to watch it. And oh my God, does the car look so good, and so does the racing suit.
Yeah,
Oh my
it's,
God.
it's amazing. I love the golf livery and the fact that actually, yes, like the golf company has done this livery for like other cars in the past as well. Like most notably the Ford GT is
Ooh, that was.
God, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all. I think it's fair to say that we all think that Golf McLaren livery is pretty stunning. You know, it's
Yeah.
one of the best liveries we've seen on the car.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, I think there's a general consensus that it's gonna be Verstappen and Lewis on the top, on the podium again for Monaco. As you've seen, in the last four races, they're just sort of on another level, compared to all these other drivers, even the drivers in their own teams. And but the third step on the podium, that seems to be a bit of a interesting point for all of us in this Grand Prix. So why don't we go around with the predictions? I'm gonna say it's gonna be Charles Leclerc because it's his home race. I want to see him win there. I want to see him win. Well, he can win there, but I want to see him at least on the podium for the first time. On his home ground. I think this is just gonna be a fantastic sight, and well, I really want it to happen. What about you guys? Hannah, what do you think?
I mean, I think I've already mentioned my top three. I think it's going to be Verstappen, Hamilton, Ricardo. I really hope. I think fourth, we might be surprised with the Checo Perez.
Mm.
Yes.
Once again, the Red Bull car playing quite a big, play there.
I think my answer will be pretty obvious. As a Red Bull fan, I would obviously would want to see Checo up there, to see a double podium for Red Bull, and going with like others say, especially what you think said, being a Red Bull car in the Monaco circuit. I think that would give Checo a really upper hand while driving this circuit, and I really hope to see Sergio Perez on the podium, at least on third place.
Yeah.
Max, what about you, Max? Is it gonna be Ricardo or Leclerc or?
for me it will be Verstappen, Hamilton, and I just want to say Leclerc because it's his
Yeah,
home
let's
race.
Yeah,
go.
fair enough.
You should have said. I think the correct answer was Sergio Perez Max. I mean, I'm
I think
disappointed
you
in him.
can. Optimism and reality are often different. So yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Abhishek.
Nah, man.
I mean,
Watch me, guys. I bet gonna bet $100. Sergio Perez gonna win.
Uh-huh, yeah, sure. Big words, big words.
I mean, Leclerc
Honestly,
is
right?
on. Leclerc is on. I'm sorry. I'm just keep disrupting you guys with talking about Leclerc.
It's
I'm not a
fine.
fanboy, but Leclerc has been on great form this past four races. Finishing the top five in every race, in a car that maybe is not so as competitive as you would like it to be. So I think it's great to see where he is. Yeah, back to Heno.
Yeah, I think one very interesting topic of the race is going to be Mazda's spin because
Oh,
what he did last race, I think, watching Verstappen or hoping Verstappen would win was interesting. Him holding up Hamilton, watching the conversation between Toto Wolff and FIA itself. And I think I was looking at a meme on Instagram where Gunther Steiner's Google history was leaked, and all of it was basically saying, how long does it take for an F1 car to drown, how to save and how to save an F1 car after it is wet and stuff like that. And I think it was so funny. And yeah, it'll be fun because I'm fully expecting a red flag from Mazepin. I think he will probably qualify 20th. He'll get a penalty point of 5 grid positions, and then he'll get maybe a red flag within the first 2 laps.
Mazepin is really a meme at this point, honestly.
He really is.
How many spins does he have now at the
isn't
I
there a
think he's
website
got.
to count that?
Yeah, there's a website to count that.
Oh man,
moment?
F in the chat to the boy, man.
Yes, man. Yes.
It's insane. I mean, this year with Mazepin, with so many new drivers and new teams, we are totally seeing a lot of new drama, a lot of new stories to be written. Netflix Drive to
You know,
Survive looks promising even before they're like in production, so that's
Nah,
exciting.
man. I don't think
I
so.
really hope they just dedicate the episode to Mazepin and just drivers getting angry on the video chat
Oh
for stupid
yes, oh
stuff he
yes.
does. That'd be an
Yeah.
insane episode to watch.
Yes, for sure. And I think I have to kind of disagree with what Jishnu said about hoping that No Drive to Survive will be good because look how they butchered season 3, man.
Uh,
I mean, they had so many good stories, and instead of that, they decided to come up with some fake rivalry between Carlos Sainz and
Oh
Lando
yeah,
Norris. It was so stupid. I genuinely think that Claire Williams and the Williams family deserved a better send off, and Portimao itself, Turkey as well. Oh, there were so many good stories that weren't
You know what,
covered.
man? They missed out on George Russell's amazing performance in
Oh
Sakura.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
that
Oh my
was.
god, they
Yeah.
got cut so hard, man.
It,
yeah, they did.
yeah.
But you know what?
It
With
literally
so
showed.
many COVID restrictions, probably can't blame them too much as well. And well, I just love any F1 content that's out there. But yeah, I agree. They went a bit far with Carlos and Lando rivalry. I mean, those guys are just they're like the best of friends, clearly.
It's a real strong bromance there. Even now,
Yeah.
oh, makes my heart warm.
All right. Well, so we've got our predictions in for the Monaco Grand Prix. Luke Verstappen and Lewis on the podium, 1 and 2, that's for sure. And then we got a tight battle. For Leclerc, Norris, Ricardo, Perez for P3. So that's definitely going to be very interesting for all of us to watch, and hopefully for you guys as well. So, looking forward to the Monaco Grand Prix very much, as I'm sure most of you are. And well, I also like to thank you guys for listening to the podcast so far. And well, if you like what you hear, it's definitely going to get better from now on, and as the season rolls along. So lots of stuff to look forward to, and yeah, stay in touch. And let me just get a quick word out on our social media. So you can listen to our podcast on YouTube, on Spotify, or follow us on Instagram, or do all three if you must. And name will be Horsing Around with Horsepower. Am I right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's right.
For
Yeah.
now, I think that's what we'll settle with for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now still, if you got any name suggestions or just any comments on the podcast or suggestions for us, we'll be glad to hear them. So be sure to comment and like and subscribe. I don't know if you can do that, but yeah, the
Yeah,
usual
you can
stuff.
on
You guys
YouTube.
know it
Yep,
by
yep.
now.
Just gonna say it out, like and subscribe. I think everyone does
Yeah.
at this point in my
Please like and subscribe us. Help us reach the 100 subscriber
Oh yeah,
goal.
no
yeah.
podcast
See how
without all
fast we can
the
reach that.
formalities.
This thing is gonna pay for our
Yes,
university
yes, I think.
education, guys. So yep.
Yep.
Oh yes,
Any
please.
fun does.
Yeah.
If you want to start if you do start like a GoFundMe page, we appreciate
Yes.
any donations you guys make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really would.
You
Thank you.
can start
We
a
broke kids out there.
Patreon, a GoFundMe, a Linktree, and coffee, whatever you guys want.
Yes, anything
Support our university
we
education.
will always take any sum of money that we can get.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or
I accept.
Sponsors. Speaking of sponsors, Skillshare or Masterclass. If you see and you like this, hit us up.
ExpressVPN, ExpressVPN, hit us up.
yeah.
Exactly.
And what's the men's one? What's the men's shaving thing? That's
Oh,
Dollar
ooh,
Shave
ooh,
Club.
ooh.
Dollar Shave Club.
Yes.
Yes.
Dollar Shave
Oh no,
Club.
wait, are you talking about that? You're talking about
yeah,
Manscaped.
Manscaped. Yeah. That's,
Yes,
Oh,
Manscaped.
oh,
Oh,
I
yes,
mean both.
yeah.
I mean both can.
Any podcast
Let's see.
sponsors are welcome over here. So
yes. Yes, honestly,
You
anyone.
guys are missing like the top sponsor. Can you forget Red
Oh,
Shadow?
yes.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh, big up Raid Shadow Legends. Woo.
It's a
Yeah.
classic. Come on.
Anyway,
Yes.
all right. So this has been Horsing Around with Horsepower, and see you guys next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.